Nice shirt, Tom.
So you can just give me the thumbs up when we're ready. Okay, ready to roll? Okay. Hello? Where is...
In the adjournment.
Okay.
Good morning, Karen.
Testing.
Testing. Okay.
Oh, can you hear her?
Yeah, that's the one positive about the COVID thing, that you can be anywhere. Rather than having to post just those emergency Brown Act rules. When it goes back, when we don't have those anymore, it's like it's difficult again. Yeah.
Good morning.
Right.
Good morning, Tom. Just one moment.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because...
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. Wheeler. Welcome to California.
California.
Sort of. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. And let's go ahead and take roll call this morning, make sure everybody's tuned in and so forth.
Supervisor Frazier?
Here.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers is absent.
Okay. Everybody's accounted for. So we will be going into closed session, but before our council reads the items into closed session, are there any comments from the public regarding closed session items? Seeing none, council.
Yes, Chairman, members of the board, there are two items for your closed session. The first is Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with your labor negotiators, Director Gomez and Susan Carter. The employee organization is all units. There's also one case to discuss related to deciding whether to initiate litigation under Government Code 54956.9, paragraph 4, subdivision D. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. We'll retire into closed session and return when we're done. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. We just returned from closed session, and Council, do you have anything to report out?
Chairman, there are no reportable actions from your closed session.
Okay, very good. And with that, I'd like to open up our meeting. It's a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. And the first item will be the to open and close the meeting in memory of. And are there any, actually, before we do that, let's do a roll call to make sure that Supervisor Wheeler's on. Oh, okay. Let's pause until he's on.
Learn from DJ.
Supervisor Wheeler is very sensitive about these things.
Supervisor Wheeler,
Yeah. Is it working?
It's working.
There he is. Let's go ahead and just do a roll call just to be official to ensure everybody's on and participating.
Supervisor Frazier,
Here.
Supervisor Poitras,
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez,
Yep.
Supervisor Wheeler,
Yes.
Supervisor
Here.
Rodriguez is absent.
Supervisor Rogers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Rogers is absent. Excuse me.
Hey, when did he walk out?
Here and there. Here and gone. Well, again, welcome and good morning, everybody, to a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. And let's roll into open and closing in memory of. And are there any supervisors who would like to open our meeting in memory of somebody?
Mr. Chairman, I would, if it's okay.
Certainly.
Two fine gentlemen passed away in the last couple of weeks. Alvin McDonald Jr., his dad and I used to went out of state hunting just like I'm doing now together and everything else. And his son, Alvin Sr. passed away quite a while ago, and he passed away at a really young age, 47 years old. He had diabetes just like his dad did. And he was a heck of a competitor at the Loggers Jamboree and just all around good guy. These two beautiful kids. One of them, I'd say something, but anyway, another one is Thane Beatty, B-A-T-Y. Him and I grew up together. He's from Albury. His mom was one of the best basket makers ever around, and his dad was a teacher, principal at our local schools, and they're both Native Americans. And Thane was he was a couple years ahead of me in high school. And when I was on the Sierra High School board, he was the one that called me the most about keeping our Native American kids in school. And he was just really great guy. We lost two great citizens for our area. So thank you very much.
Very good. Are there any other comments from supervisors? Doesn't look like it. So let's go ahead and move on to the invocation and pledge allegiance. We'll have Pastor Mike Farmer from 4th Street Church of God deliver the invocation, and then I'm going to ask Supervisor Rodriguez to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me, a flag, pledge allegiance
To the
flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Karen, I can't see nothing but the Madera County emblem.
Just one moment.
Oh, it's the one on the screen.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and move into
Yes, thank you.
public comment. And as a reminder, the first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record. So are there any, looks like we have a public comment.
Yes, Supervisor Stevie McNeil, Madera County Ag Commissioner. Just wanted to do an update on close to 2 weeks ago, a very serious agricultural pest, peach fruit fly. 3 of the males were found in the Chowchilla City area. Since then, there's been a rapid response to that. Lots and lots of traps put out in the area. And I'm happy to report that about 2 weeks later, no more fines. So fingers crossed, it's not just a serious damage to our local farmers, but also of concern to our trade partners. And one other thing too, this is on PPE distribution in Madera County, and thanks to CDFA, the governor's office, and Cal OES, they were able to supply us with cloth masks, surgical masks, and much looked for N95 masks. And I want to thank the growers and farmers with employees and farm workers that helped hand these out, farm labor contractors, pest control businesses, people with agricultural workers. And especially for the N95s, originally they were intended for pesticide applications, but when the smoke came, and we know how bad that's been lately, for our field workers out having to go through harvest. So those were supplied. I want to thank Madera County Farm Bureau for teaming with us for several days to have drive-up pickup events on that, and also community-based organizations. That's including Central Valley Opportunity Center, Ladera's Campesinas, United Way of Fresno Madera, and the City of Madera Housing Authority, and Madera County Community Action Organization. And we had 101,000 cloth masks distributed, 100,800 N95s, and a little over 150,000 of the surgical type masks that I have on to help protect our field workers. So just wanted to do an update on that.
Very good. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's great news on both counts. So thank you so much. Hi there.
Hi. Morning. My name is Marcella Andrews. And I would like to, I have a problem that maybe you can solve. I was given a notification by code enforcement that there's a group of people becoming a nuisance, camping on some property that belonged to me. I had already tried to get rid of them without any results. And they and other people who were camping in the riverbed broke into the house I used to live in and stole thousands of dollars worth of stuff. And I have a stack of sheriff's reports. But I made the mistake, I think, this was what changed their minds. They were going to send someone out. They did send at least two sheriff deputies, 2 cars, and 2 people from code enforcement, and warned them all to get off. But then when I turned in the paper that they gave me, I made the mistake of saying, it's a shame that people are living like that in one of the richest countries in the world. And I started a short conversation that I wasn't smart enough to lose. You know, I didn't have any business saying anything about it. But these people have been my burden. And I have not been able to get a sheriff to escort me down in the river because my grandson followed some of them. And then I could see one of the things that they stole from a distance. It was one of those carports. But anyway, I think it was because of what I said. Now they won't go and kick the people off, and said that I have to, it costs $900. I called the attorney to get rid of them. And they don't want to do anything about the people in the riverbed. I have a house there that's rented out, and there's 2 disabled veterans, and they are intimidated. My son-in-law and my grandson went over there. And, I mean, they act as if they're ready to fight. They came on my own property, well, I own both of them, but they came and he menaced my son-in-law with a trespasser, with a slingshot. Now, we're not talking about the same property, but in the same neighborhood. And I just feel that they gave me this piece of paper. I filled 4 of them out and gave 3 to Civil Division, and I kept 1. And it was, then they said, well, no, I have to go and get an attorney because I allowed them to stay there. So they were breaking up a house that I own in town. One of the guys lived with my son, and my son just threw up his hands and left me with trying to get rid of this guy. And he let someone in there who was threatening me. And the city police told me, you got to get rid of these people. So I moved him out there. I just took everything and put it in a cargo container out of the house. So anyway, I am being terrorized. And because I made the mistake, I didn't intend it to be a criticism of the sheriff's department that people are living like that. And
you want to maybe meet with Melissa De Silva, the chief of staff? We'll help you work through that.
well, if they won't go out there and tell the people to move, they're breaking the law, and they said that I let them do it. I don't know how I can agree.
Well,
Any contract that is illegal is not a contract.
and that's Supervisor Fraser's right. Melissa is a outstanding advocate, as well as all of us for all of our citizens, and she'll be able to connect you with the right people, and she'll help make that connection. And we know that you've served in the county and planning commission and so forth for many, many years, and done a lot of great things for our community. And we definitely don't want to leave you out there thinking that you're being retaliated against or anything like that. So thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. And because we don't want you being harassed, we want to get things cleaned up.
Well, thank you very much. And I sincerely apologize to the lady at the desk at Civil Division. I feel I was wrong to say anything uncomfortable to her at her place of employment, and I didn't intend it as a personal insult. I just, all of us who are Christians, we live it a certain way.
Right.
And so I live mine to think about people who are less fortunate. And I feel that I am much more blessed than I deserve. And
we also don't want your kindness to be preyed upon. So we'll help out. Melissa just came in right here. She'll help with code enforcement and sheriffs and navigating all that.
And thanks for elevating this. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Marcella.
All right.
Chairman, what was her name?
Marcella Andrew.
Oh, okay.
Andrews, with an S, right? Yeah. Yeah. All right, very good. If there's no other public comment, I'd like to just make the announcement in regards to why we have a pink coloring to our county seal. And it's because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's an annual campaign to increase awareness of the disease. Each year in the U.S., more than 250,000 women get breast cancer and 42,000 women die from the disease. Please remember that increased awareness and early screening is the best tool to fight this disease. And if you look at the statistics, heart disease and all kinds of cancer are just right there as far as the top causes of death, and breast cancer is right there. And the screening is important because it may not be breast cancer that somebody gets, but it may be another kind of cancer, and maybe just that screening will help elevate that to get treatment, and early treatment is the best treatment. So so thank you so much, staff and administration and so forth, to recognize Breast Cancer Awareness Month with that modification of the county seal. And let's remember those folks, remember them in prayer, and remember them as far as fighting the cause. So with that, let's move on to the consent calendar. And are there any items on the consent calendar that a supervisor would like to have pulled for further discussion?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the items on the consent calendar. All those, I'm sorry, we
Public
need to
comment.
do a roll call.
Public comment.
Public comment, yes. Does Sharon want to say something? No, I'm teasing. All right, let's go ahead and move on to roll call.
Supervisor Frazier,
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler,
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez, Chairman Fortress.
Yes,
Motion to approve passes 4-0.
very good, thank you. Let's move on to discussion items. Item 6A, it's the presentation of the 2019 Madera County Crop and Livestock Report by our Ag Commissioner.
Supervisors, it is my great pleasure to present to you the Madera County Crop and Livestock Report for the year, the farmer year of 2019. Let me get my Got it. Thank you. It's showing here, but not there. Pardon? Got it up here. So there we go. Thank you. Anyways, my pleasure to present the 2019 Crop and Livestock Report to you. And first, I want to extend my appreciation to farmers and industries that contribute to this. This is all voluntary information, but there are government codes that allow us to keep it confidential. We have built up a lot of trust with the growers and the industries over the year, and so we're fortunate to get this information from them. I also want to give thanks to Thomas Hagopian. These are his pictures on the cover here, and he's an excellent photographer. And also to Mr. Cha Vang, a senior ag inspector in our department, who tirelessly compiles these reports every year, and also to Allison Steen for printing and binding them. So the question is, what was the value for 2019. And that was $2,001,565,000. Now this is down a little bit, about close to 57 million from 2018. But if you'll remember, like 5 or 6 years ago, things were absolutely crazy. The stars aligned, yields were up, prices were up, demand was up, and things were just wild in the market. And so it was, dollar-wise, it was a very good year, but not realistic. And since then, we've seen the market start to stabilize. And so I see this, it's just a slight decrease, but it's part of the market stabilizing after that period.
Funny when you get into the billions, and then 57 million is just a slight decrease. When you're in,
No kidding.
So yes, over 2 billion value for Madera County. That's excellent. We are ranked the number 11 county for ag production and value in the state of California, and number 18 in the whole United States. So that's very good. I'll go through some individual crops here. Just talk about some things of note. Apiary is up some. Again, this has to do with more almond acreage coming into production. Therefore, more pollination is needed. Therefore, more bees in the county. And so we see a rise in apiary products. Field crops remained fairly stable. One thing of notice I saw in here, and I was just talking to Stephanie about, was I saw a big decrease in the acreage of irrigated pasture. And talking to some of the growers that had that, what it was is due to the scarcity of water, they didn't do irrigated pasture and run cattle on it. They just left it open. And so that points to the continuing drought conditions. For fruit and nut crops, again, we're seeing about a 7,000 acre increase each year as more almonds come into production. And this year, or for 2019, so the acres were up and the yields were up. So it was a good year for almonds. The most notable in the field crops was grapes. The price for raisins and for grapes that were sent to crush was drastically dropped. It caused it to come down a rank in the top 10 crops. And again, it was just devastating prices. And so also another thing what we're seeing is raisin growers, a lot of them are reverting to, you want to make a living, so they're pulling their grapes out, and we're seeing almonds planted afterwards. Forest products, this is mainly due to contracts. And so if it just so happens that it's a year to where there were a lot of forest contracts in your county, then it's going to be up. The next year, the contracts may be someplace else. So that was largely dependent on where the contracts are. For livestock and poultry products, livestock products, this includes milk, fairly stable, but because of the devastating prices for grapes and crush, it went down a notch, and the milk went up. Nursery, since the crash in 2009, the acreage has been drastically reduced, and we have a small presence in the county. For vegetable crops, this is mainly reliant on processed tomatoes, and again, like in the forest, this has to do with, it's all contracted acreage. So if it's a year to where there's the industry has put a lot of contracts in your county, it goes up. The next year, they may be in some other counties. Really has to do with where the contracts are. And so here's the top 10 crops for Madera County. With my page here. And again, for the many years in a row. Almonds, nuts, and hulls was number 1. Milk jumped up to spot number 2, not necessarily because of an increase. The poor dairy farmers are still struggling, but it had to do with grapes dropping down to number 3 because of the devastating reduction in price for raisins and crush. Pistachios, number 4. Cattle and calves, number 5. Cattle and calves have traditionally ranked in the top 5 for many, many years in Madera County. And then pollination, replacement heifers, nursery farmers, and poultry taking up the rest there. I wanted to also mention too that Madera County exports worldwide, and in 2019 we sent exports to 77 different countries, and of course almonds was the majority of the product that was sent. One thing I've been entering or including in the crop report for several years now is the rainfall chart. And again, I put that in, and that can be tracked by fiscal year, calendar year, or rain year. And both of those are start with a different month, end with a different month. And for the fiscal year 2019-20, the rainfall was 6.02 inches. So just wanted to remind people that sometimes we have a few wet days in the late spring and we have short memories and we remember that and think that things are getting wet. But overall for the whole year, it's pretty drastic when it's 6.02 inches. And for the 50-year average for Madera County, it's 11.31 inches. So that puts us in the technical range of being an arid county. That is the version of what happened in 2019, the crop and livestock report. And I'm available for any questions or comments.
Very good. Thank you. Very nice report. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
No, I still always like seeing that 50 years ago what it was.
Pardon?
I still like seeing that 50 years ago what it was. What it is
Yeah,
now.
that's interesting. And sometimes you see in there, you know, cotton, potatoes, things like that. And 50 years is not all that long ago. But as you can see, cattle and calves was number 2. So like I said, they have consistently ranged in the top 5 in Madera County. Of course, cotton, hardly anything out there. I don't even think if you added it all together, we'd have enough for a section in the county.
I like that instead of poultry, it was broilers and fryers.
They had different terms for things then, so that was, we tend to not have much poultry in the county. That gets concentrated in the counties that have the big processing facilities, so like Stanislaus, San Joaquin, and places like that that have the big industries there. We tend to see that there. And fruit trees, those have mainly been pulled out in Madera County. We have no fruit packing sheds, very little stone fruit here, and what we do have goes across the river one way or the other to get packed in those counties. So, yeah, interesting to see how it changes over the years. And
Mr. Chairman?
almonds was near the bottom
Yeah, it
here.
was near the bottom.
Yeah.
Yes, Tom.
Yeah, I was just going to say that rain report reflects the same thing up in the mountains. We had, at my gauges, I had a little over 15 inches this year, where we averaged a little over 30 inches. So it falls right in place as the valley, you know. We really had a ugly year last year, so all we can do is this year is hope like heck we get a good rain year. So it would help all of this.
Right. Yeah, in fact, we still have another item before we get into the GSA. That would have been a nice segue into our GSA discussion, but
Yeah.
are there any members of the public who would like to comment on this report? Any questions?
I do have one further comment just to add to this. Last year was basically the first commercial year for industrial hemp to be grown in Madera County. This has got a high learning curve, and we've got most of the growers were up in the Oakhurst, North Fork area, and very small acreage. If you put it all together, I'd say no more than 20, 25 acres. And unfortunately, a lot of that had to be plowed under. Things didn't go right, but these people are hanging in there and they're putting a lot of time into it. The educational grow, they aren't required to give the ag commissioner any information on that. However, now that you have an ordinance in place, that's a little different. So we didn't have any information on that. And the others were so small. And again, this is voluntary information. It was the first year. So that has not been included in here, but in years going forward, that can be included. Okay.
Hey, very good.
Thank you very
so
much.
And this is a discussion item, so there's no action necessary.
Yes.
So,
And this is posted will be as soon as I get back to the office, it will be posted to our website. I'll be sending a copy to the clerk's office. And then I contacted Danielle and Melissa last night, and we'll be sending everything to them for a media release just as soon as I can get back and push that button. And electronic is the form anymore. We really don't print too much up anymore. People like being able to go in and get the electronic.
Did you leave me a copy of that, Stevie? I hope.
Yes, I'll leave one up in the board office.
Thank you.
We have
I'll leave one from my office.
okay, very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Moving on to item 6B. This is discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution appointing Rusty Landsberger as Madera County's Agricultural Commissioner / Sealer of Weights and Measures effective October 16, 2020.
Good morning, members of the board. Elba Gomez with Human Resources. Yes, this recommendation is to appoint Rusty Landsberger as Madera County's Agricultural Commissioner, Sealer of Weights and Measures effective October 16th. But he will report to work on Monday, October 19th. Mr. Landsberger brings over 20 years of experience in agriculture and is an effective communicator to employees and the public. Mr. Landsberger possesses the specialized skills necessary to perform the duties of the Agricultural Commissioner. And he holds a bachelor's degree in animal science from Fresno State University and an associate's in animal science from Bakersfield Community College. He also has his County Agricultural Commission and then the County Sealer Weights and Measures license for the position. Mr. Rusty Landsberger is here to present himself. Want to come up, Rusty?
Good morning,
Hi there.
Chairman, members of the board. This is a great honor for me. Look forward to serving the community, our ag community, the constituents of Madera County, and promoting agriculture and doing whatever we can do to just promote Madera County.
Very good.
Amen to that, buddy.
Thank you. Still approved. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So we have a motion on the floor
Second.
to approve. We have a second. And before we go to a vote, is there any public comment? Seeing none?
I'd like to make one more comment.
Yes.
I'd also like to introduce my wife, Lorena, to the board as well. She's here with me today.
All right. Man, we get 2 for 1.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's great.
4. Very good. Roll call vote?
Supervisor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier,
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler,
Yes.
Chairman Poitras.
Yes.
Motion to adopt passes 4-0.
All right. Very good.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard, the best little county in the whole state of California.
Look forward to it. On a side note, I would just like to say, as my career has evolved, when I was a young man, I actually went to school in Norfolk. My father was the night foreman at the sawmill when it was in operation. So here, as I come
really?
back into Madera County, it's very kind of deja vu almost in a sense.
You know, you already had Tom, but that just like
Man,
really nailed it
thank
right
you.
there.
Thank you for
You
saying it
rusty.
after the fact, because I would have said no at that point. You know?
What year was
William
that?
Dwayne Landsberger.
Yep,
Goes
I
by
remember
Dwayne
that.
Landsberger.
I'll be darned. Wow.
Both Max and Tom worked up at the sawmill.
Yep,
Yes.
And that's,
I'll be darned. Thank you, Rusty.
Thank you.
wow. Oh,
Funny how small this world is, isn't it?
yeah, it sure is. Well, it is 10:35, and what we will do is now move on to item 7A. It's a presentation and update of the Madera County Groundwater Sustainability Agencies. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Sorry, technical things.
All right.
So what you'll see on the screen is just one slide that will show you a summary of the work that we've been working on as the groundwater sustainability agencies in the Madera, Chowchilla, and Delta Mendota subbasins. So first and foremost, I know some of you know, and it was widely communicated, the Madera subbasin has now been ruled not to be in any probationary status. Yay.
Whoopee, whoopee, whoopee.
All right.
And our GSPs, there are 4 in the Madera subbasin. They are posted on the Department of Water Resources website and available for public comment. This is the second public comment the plans go through. You'll recall we did a 90-day public comment here locally, but this is a 75-day public comment, which means they will close right before Christmas. Second on the agenda, we are trying to have a standard meeting time for the county GSA, so members of the public within the GSA know where to find us. The board meeting that seems most conducive to that is the 2nd of the month, using the public hearing time of 10:30. That way, if people have comments, questions on any of the progress that we're making, they know where to find their elected board of directors. Third on the agenda, we did have our GSA admin fee, which appeared on tax bills. I think they were mailed 2 weeks ago. So we have answered a fair amount of questions, and I just wanted to give some public kudos. We've been helped by everybody on the 2nd floor. The assessors and auditors and treasurer tax collector's office have all fielded phone calls, and we did a small training for them. So thank you. We do have our appeals process. It's up on MaderaCountyWater.com. If people have questions, they should call first. They don't have to enter the appeals process immediately. As you know, we have a rate consultant, Raftellus, who is working on a rate study. This would result in volumetric pumping fees. It would come to your board for some vetting and talking through what that would mean, but we need to quantify the individual costs that go into that first. And in terms of our data management system, we are required to have this according to the water code. So we have purchased a product that can be customized for for the Madera and Chowchilla subbasins, and we've partnered in order to save costs. I'm sorry, this is feeling like a very long list, but we're busy, so I'm going to keep going.
You know what? This is probably the most important thing we're facing in Madera County right now in terms of our water. So this is something we need to spend some time on, and we've got the time. So list
Absolutely.
away
All right.
and discuss away.
I'm going to plow through the list.
This is not something we want to blow through.
Okay.
Nope. We got all day.
Okay, that seems like a long time. Just, we don't need 8 hours, but. So the next item is our Central Valley Project Contract Place of Use Expansion. You will recall that we have a small CVP contract that applies to the Hidden Lake Estates area that is outside the subbasin. So what we need to do is work with the Bureau of Reclamation to amend our agreement so that it expands the place of use. So that sounds like a relatively easy thing. Greg Young, our engineering consultant, and I have had several meetings with the Bureau recently about this. Their concern is that they don't want us to overlap any areas. We are not overlapping any areas, but there's a fair amount of exchanging of maps, and our CED is helping us create some maps to communicate that to them. In terms of the water market, I know there are mixed feelings about whether or not this is a good idea in Madera County. So we have that grant to explore it as a strategy, and we will be workshopping on December 1st what a pilot program would look like. The pilot program would be a simulation, so there would be, you could enroll, you could trade water, but you wouldn't be making real trades. And we did a simulation approach so that we could model a 10-year period of time in less than a year. We also have an upcoming workshop on how we plan to use satellite technology to monitor groundwater use. I don't think anybody's seen this date yet, so this is new. It's November 6th at 10 a.m., and that'll be via Zoom. We have the consultants from both EraWatch and David's Engineering who are going to walk us through how you estimate water use using satellite data. Then recharge studies. It says presentation today. It should be tomorrow. Sorry, like most of us in the COVID realm, I've lost track of days. But it's tomorrow during the advisory committee. We have a consultant who is analyzing how to do recharge most cost effectively, beginning with on-farm recharge with existing infrastructure. Land easement studies. You'll recall we have a grant through the Department of Conservation to fund an incentive structure to be developed to rest and retire land. We did initial stakeholder interviews with all sorts of farming and ranching groups. Jeannie and I also did stakeholder interviews with groups that do easements nearby, like American Farmland Trust and California Farmland Trust and Sierra Foothill Conservancy. So we have a pretty good handle on existing easements and how they work. We now need to figure out the economics behind that. Prop 68, we can handle these at the same time. This is a grant that we've been awarded to do an inventory of domestic wells. This will beef up our own records by matching them with environmental health records, assessor's records, and the well completion reports, which are held by the Department of Water Resources. And for our portion, we have made a data request for Chowchilla, and we are sorting through those records. The Madera Subbasin's a little bit further behind due to receiving the grant later. Watershed Coordinator Grant. This is something that Jeannie has received in the past and that we applied for. It has a slightly new focus. It's for Sigma. Our strategy here was to say we really need to fix the infrastructure for flood, where we are moving flood flows. Can we bring that together with Sigma? And so we are asking for funding for a farmer maintenance program and someone to supervise that. So this is actually it's a very competitive grant. Pretty much every GSA in the Valley has applied or is in a partnership that's applied. So fingers are crossed there. Kristen is working hard on that right now. It's due in 2 days. And then I just wanted to make sure that you knew there were ongoing efforts with CV salts. This is a nitrate management program. It is not new, but the Chowchilla Subbasin is in the first priority that needs to address it. And the big picture is that essentially growers who may be responsible for nitrates in the groundwater will have to fund drinking water supplies for domestic water users. So it's a pretty significant effort. It's led by Sarah Wolf and Christina Beckstead, only in the Chowchilla Subbasin. And then I just wanted you to know that we do work on flood and finding those nexuses. The Watershed Coordinator Grant is a good example of that. But we do have all of the grants for flood up and running and caught up. I cannot speak anymore. I've exceeded the number of words that an introvert can use in one day.
Oh, very good. Super. With that, thank you so much, number one, and it's great work that's being accomplished, absolutely, and with a lot of battlefronts. Are there any comments, questions from the board at this time? I know I'd like to mention a few things. I received in the mail, my October 7th edition of Ag Alert from the Farm Bureau, since I'm a Farm Bureau member. And there's an article on the front page that says, water year starts with concerns about La Nina. And La Nina, typically it's that weather pattern that has brought on drought conditions in the past. And it looks like we're starting to go in that direction. You know, the good news is these droughts don't last forever, but it does look like we're starting to hit that here this year, and it could last several years. At the same time, you know, we know that our consumptive use is going up based on some of the data, as well as acres outside of the irrigation district out in the wide areas that continue to get developed. And all these things, to me, indicate that we need to make adjustments to our glide path. And rather than a glide path, I think we need to have an emergency landing, because if we don't have an emergency landing, I'm afraid we're going to have a crash landing. And it's it's just this 2% a year, to me, is just not going to cut it, because number one, I don't think people think that we are taking this thing seriously as a board to go to this 2%. And then just the science, just what we see as a rainfall not happening in the next several years. It's just going to, the magnitude of our underwater aquifers are just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. And, you know, so, I mean, I don't know about my colleagues, and maybe it's something that we can talk about the next time you appear, but I mean, I would be for, number one, accelerating our decline in aquifer consumption to whatever might make sense. You know, take it from 2%, which we're not monitoring this year, to maybe 4% a year or something, or even more, because it is not, you know, we talked about this glide path to not impact the economy, but it's actually, I think, going to impact the economy in a negative way regardless, because it's going to hurt our water quality. The deeper we go, the worse the water quality is, the more energy we need to use to pump the water out of the ground. And I also think about the residents on wells. You know, I mean, it's certainly a choice that people made to live out in the rural areas, but still, it's you know, part of Sigma is to take that into consideration. And I could see some real problems with domestic wells, and we're already seeing that, you know, happening in Fairmead. Fairmead is in a really bad water area. We know that from the aquifer, whereas, you know, we hear a lot from leadership. Lavina is very different. Lavina has a great aquifer, so they're not going to run out of water, but it's they're just, and then we have the city of Madera that has to continue to go down, and it's servicing 70,000 people, and outside the area we've got Madera Ranchos, and so it's again, if we were leveling out or even going down in water in consumptive use, I wouldn't be so concerned, but it's not. It's going the other direction, and I feel that as a board member on the Board of Supervisors, I'm abdicating my responsibility for this county and the economy by not bringing this up and calling for an increase in the glide rate, to actually look at it more as an emergency landing than anything. I look at a glide path as kind of a nice glide, and you're just kind of flying through the air, and you're just kind of having a nice landing. Well, it's not going to happen that way on the course we're going. So, thank you, Supervisor.
I'm going to use your analogy. You know, it's supposed to go down 2%, right? We know what the baseline was. So, you know, by the next year, it should be 4% from whatever that start was. But since it went up, using the airplane analogy, it's like one of our engines is out, but we're just like full throttling on the left wing, right? Just trying to keep going, and which is just going to lead to disaster. So you know, I think whatever the measurements are that we need to see, since it would have been, let's just use just for like say it was 100 acre feet was pumped in the year. And so this year it should have been 98, and next year should be another 2% off of that, 96.2 or whatever. But so we need to get to that point. So if that's like 5% instead of the 4%, if it had gone up a percent, we just need to stay on that, the glide path, or get back to that glide path. So it might be 5% this year or 6% this next year, because we didn't hit that first 2%. Instead, we actually went up. What would have the number have been in year 2? And that's the percentage that needs to be dropped off now that we have the monitoring in place, and start coming out with that hammer to get it to where it's corrected back onto that glide path and show that that's where we need to be.
Speak on a same subject. Tom and I have been talking about this for years. I'm glad that this board is finally taking it serious of what's going on. So I'm very happy what you just said. Being from the farm community, I think we can get this something done. Right, Tom? Are you listening?
Yes, I can barely hear you. You got to talk into the mic, Max, but I agree with you 100%.
So that's kind of like, you know, a synopsis. You know, and I understand this is not, you know, exact science. Unfortunately, you know, we don't know, okay, we're going to have 11.13 inches of rain this year, you know, and
Yeah.
and we're going to have X number of acres, you know, but it's, you know, again.
All BS.
Yeah. Again, we can just look at trends, and
Yep.
And so it's just the acceleration. It's just everything's just going in the wrong direction. So
Sorry,
Fine.
I had that moment of fear where I thought it was my phone.
I did too. I had to look down.
I did ask
Brittany
Greg
Dyer calling me. She ought to know better than that.
Well, then
That's
she can pay
$10,
yeah,
$10 Supervisor Wheeler.
Brittany Dyer can
Yeah,
pay
no
$5 of your $10 fine then.
Yeah, I'm going to make her pay the whole damn thing.
I did ask Greg Young to look at 3 different scenarios in terms of glide path, or, I mean, we're really talking about the slope of the line, right? From a math
Right.
perspective. That's really what the question is how
Correct.
steep do you want to make it? And do you want to have it as a function where you have 2 slopes, which was originally where we were gradual and then steeper, or do you want to have one slope the whole way? So Greg will have that done for the next time that we meet together, and hopefully we will have a recommendation from the advisory committee in terms of processes. But if we don't, and I think this is hard work for the advisory committee, if we don't, I think we still need to move ahead with an allocation by the end of the year. That would
Right.
mean your board adopting a resolution that laid out the meaning of terms and included some numbers.
Correct. Well, yeah, absolutely. And if you think about it, you know, I love the advisory committee, great people, and I'm glad that they're, you know, they're devoting and spending their time as an advisory committee. But I remember that this board was elected to be here and to make those tough decisions. And again, you know, let's say, you know, 20 years from now, you know, we've got this disaster water situation, and somebody sees, you know, Supervisor Frazier on the street and says, "Brett, what were you thinking back then?" And Brett goes, "Oh, well, the advisory committee said that we should do this." And it's just like, well, I don't care about the advisory committee. You are the supervisor. You are the one that needs to make a decision. And so, again, I highly respect, you know, the advisory committee, but that's what it is. It's an advisory committee. At the end of the day, the buck stops here, and we have to make those tough decisions. And that's what we're elected to do, and I'm willing to do it. And I know my colleagues are as well. So
Absolutely.
I actually blame it on the supervisor from 20 years ago.
Me too.
You say, "You're that Wheeler guy." So, But no, and again, I appreciate that, and but it's, it's something that we are the ones that are going to have to, we're the policymakers, and we have to direct that with their advice. I mean, what we could do is come up with a policy, and then the advisory committee advises, what do you guys think? But it's kind of the other way around, to me, is a little bit backwards. So.
Yeah, the advisory committee is a tricky group to work with. It was originally intended as GSP outreach, and it certainly was, and it's continued with the allocation. And everybody on it is nice, thoughtful, but their meetings sometimes are before your meetings, sometimes they're after your meetings. It's hard to keep track of who is informing who.
Mm-hmm. In fact, what we could do is maybe we could figure out ways to better coordinate that and I'm not even sure what that would look like, but, maybe you could come up with a scenario to better coordinate the GSA meetings with our meetings and maybe at one point have a joint meeting if we need to, but it's really reached the crisis stage. I know this year there's been a huge decrease in the aquifer level. There's been a lot of well work, a lot of pump work, and it's hitting crisis stage. And I think about growers, one thing, but I also think about municipalities, because they're really sucking water out of the same aquifer, and something we need to keep in mind as well.
Well, I think the first step is
still not the percent. Remember that study on the groundwater that we done? Only 5% came. Actually, it wasn't even 5%. About 4% came from the all the homes in Madera County.
Right.
I think
they do. You're right. Sorry, Stephanie.
It's okay. It's hard to communicate in masks. I think having a fixed meeting time will make it easier to find good dates for advisory committee or workshops or whatever format we want to choose. So if we're the second board meeting of the month at 10:30, we will know that constituents have a place to find you and me and to express their thoughts.
All right, very good. If there's no other questions or comments, are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, thank you so much, Stephanie. We appreciate all your hard work, and you're the ultimate diplomat. So you're having to walk a very interesting fence line.
and sorry, extroverts, we don't have a daily word limit. We just.
All right, very good. And with that, is there any pending legislation? Any supervisor staff reports? Supervisor Rodriguez, Supervisor Frazier, Supervisor Wheeler?
Well, I just hope that I can get my meat out of the guy that's cut my meat is 87 years old. He's been in this business for, I think he said 65 years. Yesterday he was going to cut it up, and he had a toothache, so he went to the dentist, had to pull it or something, and he's walking out, he fell down.
Oh.
And so he couldn't cut it up yesterday. So I talked to him this morning. He said he's cutting it, as I talked about, 8:15, and hopefully he'll have it all done, and I can load it up and come home tomorrow. So it's been a long trip. So
his arm's in a cast, but he's going to do his best, right?
Right, exactly. He's such a nice gentleman. He's cut a lot of different things up for us in the years past. So it's just one of those crazy things.
Oh, boy. Well, good. Well, I'm glad you had a great time and successful.
Yeah.
Just to
Poor buck.
So,
what's that?
Go ahead.
Poor buck.
Oh, the poor buck.
No, the poor buck, yeah, but just think when I give you a piece of that meat, how good it tastes, Max.
The buck stops there.
The buck stops there. A couple items I have. Number one, yesterday I was able to attend a interesting food giveaway with a twist. It was in back of workforce investment. What was the food giveaway was at the end of the line, but in the front of the line, there were several different agencies. There were the Madera Adult School, there was WIB, CVOC, and several others. So there to give information out, to talk about the adult school, to talk about opportunities for jobs and things that they could help people. And at the end, they got their food. The only thing I thought was missing, though, is there would have been a great test area, because there was a huge lineup of cars. And so that might be a strategy we might want to think about, free food and have all these cars, and then have get tested, get some food. But that was, anyway, exactly. And so I just want to tip my hat to those agencies that were there, because, the food is a great thing to do. It lasts a few days, maybe a week, but the skills that the Madera Adult School and Workforce Investment and CVOC and these other organizations can provide lasts a lifetime. So that was a good thing. And then the second thing is, yesterday on our COVID call, I mentioned to Stephanie Nathan that it'd be great if we could get the updated information where we are on Tuesdays, whenever we can get it in the morning, because I've noticed other counties reporting out in newspapers around noon, and other people talking about it. In Madera County, I have no idea where we are, and so I'm over here scrambling, looking online for the state and looking for the numbers and wondering if they're the right numbers. And then later on, we may hear something about it. But I mentioned to Stephanie, I'd like to get that information and have it dispersed, not only to the supervisors, but the public as soon as it can be publicly released. So apparently it can be released earlier than we've been seeing it here in Madera County. So with that,
I agree 100%, Rob. I'm always doing the same thing, trying to find it so I can get it out there. And it just irks me sometimes, and it's never the same time, it seems like, except that 4 o'clock one. But
right.
It would be really nice.
Yeah, people want to know, and I know that the information is received a lot earlier, and so whatever the time the state's able to allow us to kick it out, we need to be able to kick it out. So absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Varney, anything?
I do have a response to that request, and that is that information that's received by Public Health is supposed to be embargoed by the counties until noon on Tuesday.
Okay.
I will tell you that in 59 minutes, you will not be happy with the fact that we'll still be in the purple zone.
Okay.
Both of our indicators improved. However, one of them has, since it's embargoed, I won't get into the specifics. One of them is still in the purple range, which I guess, speaking personally, having been involved in that from another angle previously, is somewhat frustrating. I think it's frustrating for your public health staff also, because in essence, what the number comes down to is, since one more person is sick per day, we are not transitioning from purple to red. It has nothing to do with health equity areas. So perhaps if you'd like me to, I'll talk to Dr. Paul about releasing those numbers to you earlier on Tuesday. If other people are putting it out before that, they're not supposed to be. And I guess at some point, if the state wished to enforce its embargo, it could cease to send us the information until noon on Tuesday. However, I was wondering if the board would like me to draft some sort of letter for your approval next Tuesday back to the state, just asking, what can we do to get back open? Because your test positivity rate will have gone down again. You'll see that after noon, and then your other rate actually went down. It just didn't go down enough. But in essence, because 7 people were sick, you're still in purple. So to me, that makes no sense. Right. And I'm not sure that it makes sense in terms of how the public health folks strategize. I think that they've tried to strategize towards those groups of folks who are more likely to pass it amongst themselves at this point. So it just seems kind of onerous and heavy-handed for us to, 7 people are sick out of 159,000, so we're still in purple. And then the other thing to keep in mind for those folks who've been super about cooperating with us is, I've seen some things from Fresno County saying, hey, we're open, and it's, okay, that's not really true. You went from purple to red. Remember, there's still orange and then yellow beyond that. So, obviously I wish we were on our way to red today, but at that point when we're on our way to the red area, the rest of us need to maintain good habits so that we stay in the red and move on to orange and yellow. So if it's the board's wish, I'll put something together for your consideration at your next meeting, and hopefully that day we will be moving from purple to red. Thank you.
That'd be great, Jay. Thank you so much. And I mentioned it last week, and I'll mention it again today. I'm frustrated, and I know that my colleagues are frustrated in regards to the regions that they're elected out of. They do have good numbers, and because of the fact they're in Madera County, they are suffering the consequences due to what's happening here in the city of Madera. So, to me, that's very subjective too, as far as the way the lines are drawn and things of that sort. And I know that they've got a line in cement in Sacramento, and that's just the way it's going to be. But again, there's a lot of one-size-fits-all logic going on that just does not make sense.
And the state facilities that have large numbers that change ours, we get penalized for that as well. I think that's not fair. I also, in your letter, if they could change the colors, I don't know who came up with purple, orange, yellow, like red. I mean, that's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
You've got red, yellow, green is perfect.
Yeah.
And if you want to throw in an orange before yellow, but I don't know. Very strange.
Yeah, so one of the things the state also does is
Also, maybe,
go ahead, Tom.
Rob, what you were saying in that letter, I'd really like to see them change those parameters, because I tell you, there's a lot of businesses is paying us taxes up here in Eastern Madera County and the ranchos in our zone, what they call our area, and our numbers are way below that number that lets us open, and they got to change that some way. This is totally ridiculous to penalize the whole county for the central part of it. It bugs the heck out of me, and I really wish we could fight that some way, because it's just, our businesses down here in the valley, they're open year round and have, lots of ways to get income. Ours up there are so dependent on the summer months and the fall and the spring that, and then being shut down like this almost the whole summer for not having those numbers, it just irks my butt. So,
and unfortunately, whenever there's a nonsensical policy like they've got right now, that's what's really causes issues. And it seems to me that in areas of the county where they recognize there's not a problem, that would free up resources to utilize in areas where there's more of a problem. We could double down, we could triple down, we could quadruple down in areas that we do have problems to get us back. But instead, let's just spread it out even to areas where we don't have issues, which is just, you don't fight a battle like that. Nobody goes into battle saying, we're going to, use our resources over here in non-battle zones. No, you have a focus, on
the battle zone.
Yeah, the battle
zone. So we can be conquered.
Yeah, exactly. It's just is just inane.
And that's how they're conquering us.
Right. Oh boy.
So with the ongoing testing, even though you'll see that our test positivity rate went down again, I encourage everybody who is able or eligible to test, if for no other reason. The state actually applies a penalty to the other number, the number of cases per 100,000, if we aren't meeting the test metric they send to us. Mm-hmm. So any opportunity to test is worthwhile on behalf of the county trying to get back open. So
I'll go get mine.
Yeah, I try to tell people that too, I tell you.
Right. Well, after a while, people just feel defeated. They feel discouraged because they're doing everything they're supposed to do, and yet it's not good enough. So
right. It's amen to that, Rob.
Yeah. Oh boy. So anyway, no, Jay, thank you, and you're absolutely right. We need to, just need to fight on and not let that defeat us. So absolutely, thank you. And council, anything you'd like to? Okay, very good. Well, thank you, everybody. We've had a great meeting, and let's go ahead and adjourn.
All right.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good drive back.
Yeah, can't wait, I tell you.
I'm going to go get my COVID test now. They're doing them right out there with the flu shots.